What's up you guys, this is your boy Mike G. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to give you guys a video on my journey to medical school. I'm also going to have some tips for you guys along the way, so stay tuned for this video. Alright you guys, let's get rolling. Give you guys a little bit of my background. My parents, they were both immigrants from Mexico. My dad came here at the age of 11. He went through school here, and my mom actually didn't immigrate over here to the United States until after she married my father, a year before I was born. Alright, so when did I decide that medicine was something that I wanted to go into? So actually, this is going to be a little bit of a funny story. It kind of goes back all the way to pre-K. So you guys remember those days where, you're in class and, it's time to pick, what do you want to do when you grow up? So it's one of those kind of days. And so what we had in our classroom was like a bunch of little cards set up with different professions and careers and stuff like that. If you want to do if you wanted to be the president, police officer, firefighter, so on and so forth. So actually one of the things that caught my eye and I was actually reaching out for was an illustration of a police officer. So as I go forward to grab this card, some kid just snatches it out of my hands and they take it and they're like, hey, no, you can't be a police officer because I'm going to be a police officer. So I was 4-year-old me was very, very naive, and I was just like, all right, then fine, be the police officer. I'm gonna go look for something else. And as I'm looking through all these cards, what I find is an illustration of a person with a white coat and a stethoscope taking care of a young child. And so my first thought was, wow, that I wanted to take care of other children, other families like mine. From that point onward, I just had it ingrained in myself that I wanted to be a physician one day. I wanted to be a doctor. So, as you go through schooling and stuff, teachers would always ask you, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I would always reply, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a doctor. And, a lot of teachers would always kind of give me some questionability about it, I'd say. They'd be like, are you sure a doctor is what you want to do? That requires a lot of schooling, a lot of work. Are you sure that's what you want to do? And my mentality was, I want to work as hard as possible for a short amount of time and then have my reward the rest of my life. I don't want to be working my butt off throughout my whole entire life because in the beginning of my, let's say, adolescence or adult years, I was too busy messing around and having too much fun. So that was my mentality. What kind of student was I in high school? Well, as I just told you what my mentality was, I knew that I would have to work really hard in college particularly in order to get into medical school. I had no idea what the hell the route, I had no idea what the route was exactly to get into medical school, all the obstacles you had to climb to get there, but that comes much later. So knowing that, I was like, you know what, in the meanwhile, I'm in middle school, I'm in high school, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to have as much fun as possible until I for sure have to settle down and buckle down and, get the ball rolling. And so, yeah, I had my fun in middle school. I had my fun in high school. In early 9th grade, I remember I was actually really, really into Chicano rap, Mr. Cuponi, Little Rob, Little Cuete, all that stuff. Really, I was really about that, and so I even had a little phase, kicking it with the Homeboys and stuff. And even going back, I remember freshman year, it was like 20 of us deep in where we kicked it at, in the pad, in the quad. And so I remember, but by the end of that 9th grade year, about most of those homies of mine ended up getting kicked out of the school, and there was only like 5 of us. And I remember these 5 friends of mine, we were actually close friends since about, I want to say, elementary school members. And particularly, I did not gang bang, but I can't deny that I did run with the local crew back in the day. But at that time, that's just what I was into. But then came 10th grade, and so at this point, my girlfriend had now come into my high school, and we worked together since 8th grade, and we're actually still together today. So if you're watching this video, I love you, babe. But yeah, and so it's 10th grade, it's the middle 10th grade, and I'm looking at my transcript actually. Let me pull it up for you guys. My freshman year, I was getting a 2.3, a 2.0, you know, and now it was middle 10th grade, and my GPA was like about 2.8. I had just failed PE. Like, who fails PE, right? It was my first class of the day, PE, and so if you were late more than 3 times, that was a non-dress every single time, and so more than 3 non-dresses was a fail for the semester, and so that's how I failed. That's how I failed PE. That was kind of the tipping point when I saw that, you know, I was saying I was smart, but not always putting in the work and stuff because I was too busy having fun. But when it came down to it, you know, I would score the scores I need to get on my standardized tests and stuff like that. But I was like, yo, for colleges, you know, these grades, these marks on a piece of paper are not translating to reflect my natural intelligence. So that's actually when I decided that it was that time to get serious and, you know, start hitting the books. So like I said, my girlfriend came to my school. Most of the friends at the time who were always up to no good got kicked out of the school. So again, I had more time to focus on myself. And my girlfriend was always a great student, so she kind of also helped me within that. But it was more intrinsically driven that, you know, it was time to get working. And so, you know, instantly from one quarter to the next, from one semester to the next, I went from a 2.83 GPA to a 3.67 GPA, and so that's how my journey started in high school. But and then so on from there, I'm going to get 4.0, 4.0, and then finally my last semester I got a 4.2. I can't say that I was the ideal high school student. I wasn't. I graduated with a 3.35. If you non-weight that, it's 3.12. But if you take into consideration a UC GPA, which is University of California GPA, which is the types of schools that I wanted to go to, was 3.8. So in some aspects, my GPA was, you know, fairly average. Not the great, not the best, not the worst, just average, you know. My extracurriculars in high school, I didn't do that many, but the one extracurricular that I did do was the most meaningful extracurricular that I could have done at that point. And for me was volunteering at a hospital. And so I volunteered at the emergency room, at Fast Track, which is like urgent care, and then at a patient discharge center. And so I would wheelchair the patients out, I would help restock items in the urgent care, and I would help attend to patients in the emergency room. And that was my first exposure to real life medicine. And that's actually when I realized that medicine is exactly what I want to do. I remember coming home with what I like to describe the hospital feeling, which was a gentle, warm feeling that today I spent my time helping someone else, and knowing the gratitude in their eyes and their voice when they would talk to me and tell me how thankful they were for me to bring them a warm blanket or just a cup of water was extremely, extremely rewarding to me. And so that's when I knew that that was exactly the type of career that I wanted to go into. But I had no idea how to get there. I remember applying for colleges, and I remember actually praying at the time and be like, yo, I don't care what kind of college I get into, as long as my ultimate end goal is getting into medical school. So luckily though, I was blessed to be accepted into UCR. It was a huge blessing in disguise, because at first I was a little reluctant to it, but at the end of it, I've been so appreciative to been able to attend there. Well, as you guys can see, I did not feel prepared for college, and so one of the things, the single best thing that I could have done for myself was attend a pre-college program. In my instance, it was specifically tailored for pre-medical students. I would highly suggest looking into these early start programs in which you're able to take some classes in the beginning of the year. In my instance, they didn't count towards your grades, which was perfect because it allowed us to kind of see what worked and see what didn't work without having to jeopardize our GPA in the process, which is a huge, huge issue that a lot of incoming freshmen have. And so I came from a disadvantaged school. I remember having a lot of gang violence early on, and so I didn't really feel prepared. I was always really good in math, and I was always naturally curious in sciences, but going through this program, I was able to kind of see how big of a deficit I actually had in my sciences, and so I was struggling incredibly with biology, and so kind of ironic if I was going to be a biology major. So that's really when I noticed how far I had to go. And so I was thankful for this program because I was able to meet some of the most amazing individuals who today are still my peers. And so that was one thing that I really encourage everyone kind of look into whenever they're going into a new setting, academic setting, is having a dream team. And so my dream team was a set of guys who today I still live with and I love to death. But without these guys, we all wouldn't be where we are here today. And so I'm extremely thankful for my success to not only the group, but to the opportunities that my school has provided. And so, yeah, so kind of fast forward, undergrad, through undergrad, it was tough. It was a lot of roller coasters, but again, this peer of friends that I had, we really helped each other navigate ourselves through our undergrad courses. And so it really helped a lot. And so another great thing though, I would highly recommend you guys, that really helped me out in terms of building networks and getting access to resources, was being involved in some sort of community in your college. I was a part of this amazing medical student program at our campus. It gave us a lot of resources for us as pre-med students in order for us to get involved in. For example, if we wanted a job or work, if we wanted employment, they gave us access to employment. If we needed tutoring, they were able to provide that. And also, if we were interested in research, there was programs that they also had offered for us as well. And so this was an incredible help, especially coming from a disadvantaged background. And so, because of that, I was able to work jobs as I was going through undergrad. I was able to do research. I did like 3.5 years of research. And I was also able to be very actively involved in my community through several extracurricular programs in which I enjoyed. So that's one thing I advise you guys to look into, some sort of community. So actually, I decided that I wasn't going to apply to medical school till after I graduated. Halfway through my junior year, I remember I had just signed up to take the MCAT. I had just been accepted into this amazing study abroad program in the Mediterranean, where I was going to be studying food and culture in Florence, Italy, and Barcelona, Spain, and Turkey, Istanbul, Turkey. So, and now all I needed to do in order to apply to medical school was take my MCAT. So, for those of you who don't know, the MCAT, it's a 7-hour exam full of sciences and psychology material, and so it heavily weighs on your application into medical school. So now it was a summer. It was towards the end of my junior year, about to approach my senior year, and during that summer is when I was going to study and take my MCAT. I had just signed up for a date. I had just bought all the books, and I had probably been a week or two into actually studying, when suddenly, out of nowhere, an email came up to me. An email came on the day of my birthday. The email told us that, this is the first time we're offering this program. If you apply to our program as early decision candidate, then you don't have to submit an MCAT score. So if you haven't taken the MCAT, you don't have to take the MCAT if you get accepted. So this was a huge opportunity. And to tell you the truth, it took me a long time to come to grips to applying to this program, because I was in such denial. I was always saying that, I wanted to be a doctor when I grew up, even though I had a lot of doubt and a lot of teachers second guessing that growing up. But, that's always something that I wanted to do. I never had a plan B. But at the same time, I felt that it was me reaching for the stars, hoping to land on the clouds on something else. But it took me some time to get to grip to applying. I talked to several people, and they were all urging me to apply, saying that I was a perfect candidate for this program. And I had a month and a half to fulfill primary and secondary applications all at once. And I remember being paranoid, because if I applied to medical school early decision and it didn't work out, I had lost my time to study for the MCAT, and now that means I would have to now use the fall time to study for the MCAT, but that meant that I could no longer study abroad. So it was definitely high stakes for me at the time. And so I got my letters of recs. I started working on the application. On top of that, I had the heaviest load of science classes that semester, and so I was worried whether or not I was going to be able to pull all this off. But luckily, even while working on all this stuff, I was able to get straight A's that semester, turn in my application despite having to work on it during my spring break on a cruise with no absolute Wi-Fi. So yeah, and it turned out that, you know, me and my friends, the same dream team I was talking about, we all ended up getting interviews. And so we were very happy for each other. You know, we were trying to support each other. We were learning together and trying to prepare as best as possible for these interviews. And I remember there being 8 of us. So for, I don't know how many people in our school applied, but there was only, out of 8 of us who got interviews, there was only going to be about 3 to 5 spots. I remember interviewing that day, but being the most relaxed interview because I had finally accepted that that medical school is what I was destined to do. Not to sound kind of superficial or whatever the case is, it's just I never felt another love for another career as much as I did for medicine. And so, plus having the support of my brothers, my bestest of friends with me that day, because they were also interviewing, so it didn't feel too much of a competition, but we were happy if just one of us made it. So luckily though, I remember I was at the gas station one day coming back from home, and suddenly I got an email back saying that you had been accepted into medical school, and I just screamed. I screamed so loud in the middle of a gas station, and I was like, yo, I don't care how ridiculous I look. I went straight back home and I hugged my parents and I told them, thank you guys so much for all the investment you guys did in me, because honestly it was a family effort. And so that was the most happiest day of my life, I remember. And luckily my friends all got accepted it too. They ended up accepting all eight of us, and so I was extremely happy. And so we were the first class of early decision. So I would highly look into that, and if you particularly know that you would like to go to a certain school, for medical school, potentially they might have an early decision program as well that doesn't require you to submit an MCAT score. So that's ultimately how I got to medical school without an MCAT. And now, thankfully, I got into medical school and I was able to give back and work as an RA or mentor for that initial program going into college now for the next generation of students. And I was able to study abroad in the Mediterranean. I had the absolute time of my life. Completely changed the way I view things, the way I view food, the way I view leisure and social time together. I finished my last 2 semesters, and that was it. I graduated with a 3.8 GPA and a publication, and I was extremely grateful for all the opportunities that my university had offered me. And so that's another thing I suggest you guys look into. Don't automatically just go for the most prestigious university. Look for universities when you guys are applying to colleges that can offer you the greatest amount of resources for you to succeed and ultimately get to your end goal. And so I know it was a crazy journey, and I felt that, 4 years later, God answered my prayers, or someone answered my prayers. And for having it to come out on my birthday, that opportunity, it was truly amazing. All right, you guys. So if you guys got anything out of this, I want you guys to remember a couple of things. So one was, before you enter into college, look to see if your school you're going to has some sort of early start program, some early practice go around that allows you to take science classes and not have counted towards your grades, so that you're able to practice and see what works for you and what doesn't as a potential college student. Number 2, make sure you assemble your dream team and you get a group of very determined individuals, those who are able to push you to your limits, push you to the next step, because otherwise I felt it was going to be blind leading the blind. They all had different opinions, different perspectives on life. We were a very diverse group, and so that definitely helped me be successful in my journey. Number 3, I would suggest you joining some sort of pre-med community in your college, so that you can get mentors, get access to mentors and upperclassmen, and help navigate your way through your undergraduate career and pick the right classes as well. Lastly, I would say have fun and join whatever things you guys feel passionate about. It definitely helps you stand out when you're applying to medical school, so pay attention to that as well, okay? Alright you guys, so that's it. That's my video on how I got to medical school, from homeboy to medical student. If you guys would like to see other videos, more particularly about, let's say, extracurriculars or clinical experience, you know, just let me know down in the comments below and I can go ahead and make that for you guys. Alright you guys, this is your boy Mike G. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you guys later, alright? Peace.